Welcome everybody back to the second in our series on diving Bikini Atoll. I'm Patrick Danko with Danko Diving, and with me today...
Yeah, I'm Zach Haddock, KC Scuba Squatch, if you're looking for me on Facebook or online or Instagram, anything like that.
I started with the first series around talking a little bit about the history of Bikini, like the really incredible wrecks, the history behind them, the stories behind them. There's so much to unpack there. Where we thought we'd talk here is about the training necessary to dive it. This is a bucket list, not just because it's far away and it's hard to get to, but it's required a lot of training, a lot of effort, a lot of dedication for both Zach and I to be ready to do these dives. Bikini is not recreational diving, and we'll spend a little bit of time, I think, talking about why that is and what that even means, and ultimately what does it take. Bikini is a destination that is filled with mostly deep wrecks. So there is not a lot of pretty shallow stuff to see. The stuff that we're going to be diving on for the entire time we're there is pretty deep. We're going to have mandatory decompression. We're going to have penetration, hopefully quite a bit, into some of these historic shipwrecks. And we're going to have some specialized equipment, rebreathers and mixed gases and things. So the journey to be ready to do all of those things safely is part of what we're going to talk about today.
For me, when I started thinking about this trip 2.5 years ago when it started being planned, this is like on the level of like what you read about in National Geographic when you're a kid, right? As far as like all the planning and the level of just preparation for it.
So let's talk a little bit about why all of this training is so important. The diving in Bikini is going to be demanding. The depths of these wrecks will extend down into the 180 feet-ish range, depending on where we're at on which wreck. We're going to have mandatory decompression on probably almost every dive, I would expect. And hopefully we're doing a lot of penetration, so getting into these shipwrecks and really seeing all of that cool history that's left down there for us. But the journey for both Zach and I that really has led us to this point has been this transition from a recreational diver to a technical diver. Where does someone start thinking about, from their start as a recreational diver? You get your open water certification. You become energized about diving, you start to build experience, you start to have these little ideas of, hey, I want to go dive truck, I want to go dive Bikini, I want to do something big. Starting from kind of an open water diver, where's that journey sort of begin?
I mean, I think for the most part, it's going to be that diver that, they kind of feel like there's no next step for them. They've gone through all the training that they can, and or those people that are always thirsty for more knowledge, right? And want to become better. Nitrox, dry suit, peak performance buoyancy, because all of those things are so important when you start moving over into the tech world.
Yeah, really as a recreational diver, you're building a set of fundamentals that are going to be extremely important when you go into the tech world. You're working on your buoyancy, you're working on your trim, you're working on your propulsion. And you're ultimately building a mindset, right? You're building a mindset of where am I, how do I approach safety, how do I approach dive planning. So let's talk a little bit about, we talked about technical diving versus recreational diving. So maybe the simplest way to describe that is as a recreational diver. So you get your open water certification, maybe you get your advanced, your rescue, you start to progress through your recreational diving journey. That is still constrained by or controlled by your ability to always have access to the surface at any point if you have a problem. That's probably the simplest definition. As a technical diver, that changes a little bit, right? The most common ways I think most of us define technical diving is you're pushing past, either because you've dove deep enough and or long enough, or you have a physical overhead, into a situation where you can't directly ascend to the surface anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I think these dives that we're getting ready to do, like just looking at it from a technical versus recreational standpoint, most people don't go out and practice their recreational dives, right? Like we are currently doing shakedowns, practice dives, making sure everything's set up the way we want it for a myriad of reasons, but just because of the added complication of these dives.
So let's talk a little bit about, okay, if I'm a recreational diver, I've got that down, I'm starting to get my fundamentals really dialed in. What's that path look like? Where is an open circuit recreational diver? What's my training path?
Pretty much every diver should do almost immediately after they get their initial open water training, get your nitrox.
Yeah.
Because at the technical level, you are going to be diving mixed gases, and that beyond what you're going to learn in your recreational nitrox, but that sets the foundation. But I think once you get ready, or you're ready for that next step, it's that intro to tech course, or that Tech 40 course, where you're going to start learning the fundamentals, because pinpoint buoyancy, finning, advanced finning, frog kicks, back kicking, helicopter turns, and then learning how to manage multiple gas bottles strapped to you and things like that. That's where you really, I say it because every person who's a technical diver will laugh when they hear it. That's when you learn you're not as good as you think you are.
Oh yeah.
And but it's so fantastic.
The best tech divers are the ones who go into that training looking to be surrounded by people who are better and more experienced than them, who they can learn from.
Yeah.
And because all of us, I've been tech diving a long time, I'm learning from everybody. But ultimately, you're going to go through an open circuit tech path. And at some point, you're going to have a decision to make when you hit trimix. So right now in the world of diving, you've got, when you're diving deep, you're inevitably going to need to start thinking about trimix. So this is adding helium in your breathing gas to help handle a couple of problems that tech divers are trying to solve for when you get down deep. So at the point you start adding helium in, the tricky bit is that's a little bit expensive. And not just because of trimix, but you're having to figure out down deep, how do I optimize my gas load out so I'm not having to bring any more gas than is necessary, because you start to load up back mount doubles, a couple of stage bottles. You start to be burdened by the amount of gear that you have on you. So this is where a lot of modern divers have really transitioned to looking at a closed circuit rebreather as really more and more an essential tool for doing deep technical diving, deep wreck diving. Both you and I started on an open circuit. We built that experience, and we transitioned to rebreathers. There definitely is if you're not thinking about being a rebreather diver right now and you're getting into tech, you probably should.
Yeah. My first step into the technical side was actually going through Cave. And that was actually my first step into decompression as well. And that was all open circuit. Cave deco operates a little bit different than open water deco, just because of the constraint of obviously being in a cave.
You got both. Yep.
But there's definitely multiple paths to get to the same destination on that end.
So I was looking earlier, I got my first sort of Tech 40, my intro tech certification in 2016. Ended up progressing through open circuit tech, and then in 2019 ended up getting my first rebreather and getting certified there. But that was a journey. So if I look at my own career, started from a technical diving perspective only, realizing I'd been an open circuit diver a lot longer, or recreational diver a lot longer before that. It's a 10-year, basically it'll be a 10-year anniversary trip, if you want to call it that, from a technical diving experience to Bikini. So let's talk a little bit about rebreathers. So this journey to Bikini is sort of ending with from a basic training with rebreather certification and advanced rec. And rebreathers we talked about, they're more efficient on gas. They let you dive longer with less gas consumed. That means that you're carrying less gas down to the wreck. It means you're burning through less very expensive helium. In fact, on this trip the boat that we're going on will support us from a trimix, a helium perspective, but they won't if you're an open circuit diver. Yeah. So this is a CCR only, because it's just that much burden to store and deliver helium to a bunch of open circuit divers.
Yeah.
And then the big thing too with CCRs is it helps optimize your decompression. So we're going to be spending a fair amount of time on this trip hanging on an anchor line, going very slowly up to the surface. So the mechanics of a CCR, which we won't go into here, maybe in a future video, really help us optimize our decompression to give us the shortest possible path to the surface after we're done with our dives. So for a CCR, so once you transition from open circuit tech to CCR, there's a training path there as well. You start out with I call it air diluent or air diluent deco. You're basically taking plain air and your bottle of O2, you're working with that to learn to dive your CCR. And then you're going to start pushing the depth limits. You're going to start adding helium into the mix too, culminating through a Mod 1 training through Mod 2, which is really the minimum for safe diving in bikini. Mod 2 is going to get you to that 200-foot diving normoxic trimix, which is going to cover us for bikini. And then the last kind of key unlock for us was to knock out our advanced rec, which we did last year, about this time.
Yeah, it was almost exactly a year ago.
Yeah, about this time. And we've talked a little bit about the fact that you're penetrating wrecks. That's a whole new level of safety planning, emergency procedures, and just, I think, again, a mindset adjustment to get comfortable in those tight, constrained, sharp, pointy, silty environments of the guts of a shipwreck.
Yeah. Well, you're definitely stacking those overheads, right? Whereas if we're just doing an open water deco dive, we've got a soft overhead. You're in a cave and you're not going in deco, you got a hard overhead, or even a wreck where you're not going into deco. But now we're doing both.
Yep.
Like stacked on top of one another. So there definitely is that next level, because if something happens, we've got all that time to get out before we can even start heading up.
That's right. The consequences go up, so therefore the training and preparation and experience minimums go up.
Yeah.
I know we're both getting ready to, again, sort of warming up to our bikini trip. We're going to be going down to Pensacola here in about a month.
Yep.
To go do some deepish wreck diving again, just getting our making sure our gear's in good shape, our procedures are good, getting our headspace right, or inside a couple of shipwrecks to again, be a bit of a shakedown before we head out to the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, yeah.
So, kind of in summary, what does it take to dive bikini? Lots of training, years of training. I think it's fair to say it will take years of training from an open water diver perspective to get ready.
Yeah.
But it's been a fun journey. Like, it's been an amazingly rewarding, fulfilling journey to go through each of those steps to build confidence, build experience, to something that seems almost unattainable when you're starting out as an open water diver, to the thought of going and exploring some of these things.
Well, 100%. And I think some of the strongest relationships I've built in the dive community, I've built along that journey. In the dive community, just going into that level of training, it's a pretty small community as far as the people that are doing the training side of it. You meet some really just fantastically talented people, some incredibly intelligent people. And then the other side of, like, you've trained with different people than I've trained with, and we have friends that have trained with all these different people. And then all of that knowledge kind of gets dumped into this melting pot, and we constantly have talks about, well, so you learned this and we picked this out, and it's really incredible. Like you said, it's an incredible journey, and it's a fun one.
So this is not a destination you sprint towards. This is something you sort of set as a target. You start to work towards it. You're kind of earning through all of this training and experience sort of the privilege of getting to see these amazing places that so few people get the privilege of getting to experience.
But I've always said that the further along you go with your training and the more skill you get and the more training you develop, the smaller the club that you're in. And so you get to see these places that fewer people in the populace of Earth have ever got to lay their eyes on. And even at the open water level, your basic certification, you're seeing things that a very small percentage of the human race ever will get to see. And that group gets smaller and smaller as you go along. And for me, I just think that's so cool.
Yeah. So in the future, we're going to put together a few more episodes, kind of our installment as we run up to the bikini trip. We're going to talk a little bit about gear, I think. We'll have a video where we'll talk a little bit about, okay, so we talked a lot about training. What are Zach and I going to be diving when we're down there? We'll talk a little bit about the gear and the techniques that will be necessary. I want to talk a little bit about some of the shipwrecks. We'll do maybe a little bit on some of the shipwreck history. And then we'll see where that goes. I'm sure that the travel to get there and back will probably be worthy of its own video on just how the heck do you get there and how do you come back? Because that is quite a story in and of itself.
Don't forget your toothbrush.
Don't forget your toothbrush. And then I'm sure we'll have hopefully some great footage from the actual dives themselves. We can share a little bit about the shipwrecks that we're on, and
Yeah.
and hopefully come back with some really inspiring and awesome videos and photos from this. So more to come. Thanks everybody for listening. We're excited to bring a little bit about what it takes for a diver to hit bikini and dive it. We'll be back with more content to come.